Nike was the undisputed king of athletic wear for decades, dominating the track and redefining sneaker culture. But today, things aren't looking so good. In this video, we'll uncover why Nike has lost huge market share to brands like Hoka, Brooks, and On Running, and we'll answer the question of which brand you should keep your eyes on. In case you didn't know, Nike's sales have been slipping. This year they reported a 10% drop in sales, 7% loss of position in the running sector, and they've wiped $28 billion off their market cap.
This year, Nike is facing its worst performance since the late 1990s.
But even worse than that, they've kind of lost their cool factor, and competitors like Hoka and On Running are really starting to find their feet in this race, and picking up the pieces that Nike are leaving behind. So what happened, and how did Nike, a global icon, fall so far behind? To understand how Nike ended up here, we need to rewind to 2020, when John Donahoe took over as CEO. Unlike Nike's previous leaders, Donahoe wasn't a company insider. He came from the tech world, and his mission was simple: don't screw it up. Nike's journey from a small startup to a global powerhouse in athletic footwear and apparel is rooted in innovation and passion for running. In 1964, Phil Knight, a former track runner at the University of Oregon, and his coach Bill Bowerman founded Blue Ribbon Sports, a company that would later become Nike. Bowerman, obsessed with crafting the perfect running shoe, experimented with different materials and designs to help athletes achieve their best performance. His relentless tinkering led to one of Nike's earlier successes, the waffle trainer. Inspired by the grooves of the waffle iron, Bowerman created a revolutionary sole design that provided enhanced traction, giving runners better grip and speed on different surfaces. This marked the first of many groundbreaking innovations that would later define Nike's future. After breaking ties with Japanese shoe company Onitsuka Tiger in 1971, Blue Ribbon Sports rebranded itself as Nike, named after the Greek goddess of victory. The iconic Nike swoosh, designed by Portland State student for just $35, was initially met with skepticism, but soon became synonymous with high-performance athletic footwear. One of Nike's most important contributions to the running world was the Nike Cortez. Originally developed by Bowerman in collaboration with Onitsuka, the Cortez featured a cushioned sole that revolutionized long-distance running shoes. Following their split, Nike continued to sell its own version of the shoe, which quickly became a bestseller and solidified Nike's foothold in the market. But it was the company's introduction of air technology in 1979 that truly changed the game.
Nike Air keeps your bones alive longer.
Nike embedded pressurized air pockets in the soles of its shoes, offering athletes unprecedented cushioning and comfort. This innovation not only improved the running experience, but it also set a new standard in sports footwear design. By the 1980s, Nike wasn't just a brand for athletes, it was a cultural phenomenon. The signing of Michael Jordan in 1984 catapulted Nike into a new stratosphere. Jordan's Air Jordans became an instant hit, generating over $1 million in revenue by the end of 1985, and establishing Nike as a trendsetter beyond the world of sports. This endorsement deal remains one of the most lucrative partnerships in sports history, netting Nike billions each year, while Michael Jordan continues to earn around $255 million annually from the deal. Nike's iconic Just Do It campaign, which launched in 1988, helped broaden its appeal, inspiring both elite athletes and everyday people just to push their limits. Coupled with the release of the Air Max in 1987, which showcased Nike's air technology in a visible air unit, Nike cemented itself as a symbol of innovation and motivation. But Nike didn't just focus on shoes. It built an entire culture around running. It created running-specific designs and marketed them through high-profile athletes and events. Nike became synonymous with performance in the running world. The company constantly pushed boundaries, embracing new technologies and design philosophies to cater to the needs of runners of all levels. Over the years, Nike has signed up top athletes, including Steve Prefontaine, a legendary middle-distance runner who became the first athlete to endorse Nike in the 1970s. The company also sponsored major marathons, like the New York City Marathon, to further build its brand within the running community. Nike's continuous development in shoe design, including its efforts to create shoes specifically engineered to improve marathon times like the Nike Vaporfly line, has sparked debate about the limits of technology in sports. The Vaporfly's success in breaking records has brought even more attention to the company's cutting-edge research in biomechanics and shoe engineering. But recently, Nike seemed to have taken their eye off the race, and they seem to have slipped behind. So what's happened? As Nike approached 2024, the company faced new challenges, including economic shifts and internal struggles. So they hired Donahoe to transform the way they use data and start to implement direct-to-consumer strategies to grow their business. Initially, Donahoe's strategy worked. During the pandemic, when consumers shifted to online shopping, Nike's digital sales surged. Nike leaned heavily on its apps and website, pulling back from traditional retail partnerships with chains like Macy's and Foot Locker to maximize profits through DTC sales. Nike's strong digital presence allowed it to navigate the challenges of closed brick-and-mortar stores, and Donahoe's team celebrated success in the early part of the strategy. In 2022, Nike surpassed its $50 billion revenue goal. But this early success masked some deeper issues. By focusing heavily on digital channels and cutting out the retail middleman, Nike lost its strong retail partnerships, and it overexposed its most iconic sneaker lines. Donahoe's approach flooded the market with new releases of popular models like Air Jordans, Dunks, and Air Force Ones, once coveted for their exclusivity by sneakerheads. And these sneakerheads who had always prized the limited edition nature of these shoes began to complain that Nike wasn't cool anymore, and Nike was diluting the brand. What had been rare and highly sought after was suddenly kind of common. Nike's cool factor was beginning to fade. And at the same time, Nike's innovation pipeline was really starting to falter. Historically, it had been a brand that was always synonymous with groundbreaking athletic shoes, particularly in the running category, and that had been the company's foundation. But during Donahoe's tenure, the focus shifted away from performance innovation in running shoes, and competitors like Hoka, On Running, and New Balance have seized the opportunity, growing their market share, while Nike appeared to kind of lose its edge. Nike's presence in running communities dwindles. Runners noticed that the brand was absent at events where it used to dominate, a sign that Nike had kind of lost touch with its core market. And then came the financial pressures. In late 2022, faced with declining sales and rising costs, Nike announced that it was going to cut $2 billion in expenses. The company laid off 1,600 workers, and employee morale plummeted. A Zoom call meant to address concerns erupted in criticism, the employees openly challenging Donahoe's leadership. They questioned his accountability, they mocked corporate decisions in the chat, and they expressed frustration at the company's direction. And this public airing of grievances, which unfolded in front of thousands of Nike employees, really underscored the growing discontent within the company. Meanwhile, sales have continued to slump. Nike's quarterly earnings report in late 2023 revealed a 10% drop in sales and a 28% plunge in profits, its worst performance since the height of the pandemic. Nike's executives, including Donahoe, tried to pivot, scaling back on digital, rebuilding retail relationships, and cutting back on overproducing popular sneakers. But the damage was already done. The company had lost significant ground to competitors, both in the sneaker and the running markets. In September 2023, Nike's co-founder Phil Knight made a rare public statement of support for Donahoe, but this unusual move, meant to reassure, instead signaled that Donahoe's tenure was really in jeopardy, and by the end of the month, Nike announced that Donahoe would be stepping down, with a longtime Nike executive Elliott Hill poised to take over. Hill, an insider, is seen as someone who could possibly restore Nike's connection to its roots. Nike now faces a challenge of reclaiming its reputation of innovation and balancing the demands of a fragmented marketplace, all the while trying to become cool again. Consumers are looking for the next big thing from a brand that has been a trailblazer in sports apparel for decades. The company's next chapter will hinge on how well it can blend its pioneering spirit with the modern retail landscape that Donahoe helped build. But ultimately, it may be too late.